Topping your news first tonight, some alarming details coming out of recently released audits. First is the Guam Waterworks Authority, in which the OPA says a large percentage of their wells are at high risk for contamination. Over at the Guam Memorial Hospital, the OPA continues to raise concerns about the hospital's negative cash flow. A majority of the Guam Waterworks Authority's water wells around the island are at high risk for contamination, according to the most recent audit conducted by the Office of Public Accountability. The GWA fiscal year 2014 audit's financial highlights states, quote, of the 122 wells, 77 are considered high risk, 39 moderate risk, and 6 low risk. OPA auditors clarified for PNC that this information was provided to the OPA by an internal auditor from GWA and that the numbers were based off of a draft report conducted by a GWA consultant. The purpose for including these figures in the report, the OPA says, was to indicate that GWA is undergoing some major capital improvement projects to improve the protection of their water wells. The audit does not specify which wells are at high risk, and CCU Chairman Joe Duenas did not return our calls for comment as of news time. The GWA audit also says that the agency's debt service will increase by the end of this fiscal year to $23 million, which is $9 million more than last fiscal year's $14.2 million. Deloitte & Touche, who conducted the independent audit, rendered a clean opinion and noted that GWA's operating revenues went up by $7.9 million, while its operating expenses actually decreased by $2.5 million. Meanwhile, the Guam Memorial Hospital's finances continue to be a concern for the OPA, who emphasized that, quote, GMH has incurred recurring losses and negative cash flows from operations that raise substantial doubt about its ability to continue as a going concern. In fact, the OPA says that this is the second fiscal year in a row that this emphasis has been made. Another concern the OPA raised was on the hospital's inability to retain top-level management. Within the last 12 years, GMH has had 6 administrators and 7 CFOs. In fact, just last October, CFO Alan Ulrich stepped down, and Administrator Joe Verga also resigned in March this year, citing personal reasons. The ever-revolving heads have contributed to GMH's inability to follow through on addressing past audit findings and implementing recommendations. Past audits on GMH have been identical in that GMH's expenses continue to outweigh its revenues. The hospital has poor collection methods and a low reimbursement rate from the Centers for Medicaid and Medicare. You can read both financial highlights on our website at pacificnewscenter.com.